The cry of the Banshee has long been described as the most chilling sound ever heard in the Irish countryside. It is not the cry of a bird, nor the call of a woman, but something between both, a piercing wail that freezes the blood of anyone who listens. For centuries, people have believed that when this cry rises through the night, it is not just a sound carried on the wind, but a message from the other world itself, announcing that death has entered the home of the listener. Legends speak of the Banshee as an ancient spirit who attaches herself to certain families, warning them when a loved one is about to die. The families most often mentioned are those with old Gaelic bloodlines, names beginning with O or Mac, who trace their ancestry back hundreds of years. These tales suggest that the Banshee is not a wandering ghost that drifts across the land, but a bound spirit tied by blood, duty, and fate to a specific family's sorrow. Stories passed from one generation to another describe the Banshee as a woman both terrifying and sorrowful. Some say she appears as a pale figure dressed in grey or white, her long hair flowing wildly as though caught in a storm. Others insist she takes the form of an old hag with red eyes swollen from endless weeping. A few rare accounts even speak of her as a beautiful woman, young and radiant. Though her beauty is overshadowed by the despair in her voice, the mystery of the Banshee lies not only in her appearance, but in her voice. Her cry is said to rise without warning, often in the dead of night, echoing across valleys and rivers. It begins as a low, mournful sob, then climbs into a scream so sharp and haunting that even the bravest men shudder. Those who hear it know at once that it is not of this world. It is a sound of grief so raw, so unnatural, that it strikes the heart with terror. Across Ireland, countless families have claimed to hear the cry of the Banshee before tragedy struck. In one tale, a farmer's wife woke to the sound of wailing outside her window, only to discover the next morning that her brother had drowned. In another, a soldier returning home heard the cry in the distance, and by the time he reached his village, his father had passed away. These accounts, whether superstition or truth, weave together into a tapestry of fear that has endured for centuries. The origin of the Banshee legend may reach deep into Celtic mythology. Some scholars believe she descends from ancient goddesses of war and death, such as the Morrigan, who was known to appear before great battles to foretell bloodshed. Others see her as a transformed version of the Keening women, those mourners hired in old Irish traditions to wail over the dead. In this way, the Banshee may represent the blending of myth and ritual, a figure that crossed from human tradition into supernatural terror. In the dim light of rural cottages, families once spoke in hushed voices about the Banshee's visits. They said she was never seen in broad daylight, but preferred the hours when shadows deepened, when mist rose from rivers, and when silence covered the fields. Her presence was not always visible, but her voice was enough. People would gather close, praying that the wail belonged to someone else's fate, yet always fearing it was their own. What makes the Banshee unique among spirits is that she does not kill, nor does she bring misfortune. She is only the messenger, the herald of what cannot be avoided. Death follows her cry, not because she causes it, but because she reveals it. In this way, she is both feared and pitied. Some families even believed that the Banshee mourned alongside them, sharing their grief rather than creating it. One chilling account tells of a traveler who stopped near a stream to rest. He heard what he thought was a woman washing clothes in the water. Curious, he approached and saw that the garments were stained with blood. When the figure lifted her head, her eyes glowed with sorrow, and her wail tore through the night. The traveler fled in terror, and when he returned home, he learned that his cousin had died in battle. This vision of the washerwoman, known as the Bean Niji, is thought to be another form of the Banshee, forever washing the blood of the doomed. The fear of the Banshee did not remain confined to peasants or villagers. Even noble families told stories of hearing her cry before the death of a lord or a king. Chronicles from the Middle Ages mention strange wailing outside castles on nights when rulers fell ill. Such stories gave the Banshee a power beyond folklore, placing her firmly in the minds of both commoners and nobles as a force that respected no rank. In many ways, the legend of the Banshee reflects the Irish relationship with death itself. Death was never hidden or denied in Old Ireland, but accepted as a part of life. The wail of the Banshee symbolized the inevitability of loss, yet also gave it a face and a voice. By imagining grief as a woman who mourns, people found a way to express their fear and sorrow, turning the unknown into a figure they could describe, fear, and even respect. Some skeptics argue that the cry of the Banshee could be explained by natural sounds. The wind howling through narrow valleys, the scream of foxes in the night, or the call of owls could easily be mistaken for a ghostly wail. Yet those who have claimed to hear her insist that no natural sound could compare to the depth of pain in her cry. To them, the Banshee is not a trick of the ear, but a real presence that defies explanation. The Banshee legend also traveled far from Ireland, carried by immigrants to new lands. In America, Irish families told their children that the Banshee could cross oceans, for blood ties were stronger than distance. Stories arose of families in Boston or New York hearing the same ghostly wail, followed by the death of a relative thousands of miles away. In this way, the Banshee became more than a local spirit. She became a companion to the Irish people wherever they went. Despite her fearsome reputation, the Banshee is not always portrayed as evil. Some traditions describe her as a loyal guardian who warns families out of compassion, giving them time to prepare for loss. In these stories, her cry is not a curse but a gift, though it is wrapped in sorrow. This dual nature makes her one of the most complex figures in Irish folklore, both terrifying and strangely comforting at once. Artists and writers have long been fascinated by the Banshee. Poets wrote verses about her mournful beauty, while painters depicted her drifting across misty fields. In modern times, she has appeared in novels, films, and songs, often as a symbol of death's inevitability. Each retelling adds new layers to her legend, ensuring that she remains alive in cultural memory even as centuries pass. The endurance of the Banshee myth also reveals something about human fear. We dread what we cannot control, and death is the greatest of these mysteries. By imagining a figure who comes to warn us, we give shape to that dread. The Banshee may be terrifying, but she is also familiar. She has walked alongside countless generations, reminding them that every life has its shadow. Encounters with the Banshee are still whispered in Ireland today. Some claim to hear strange cries near graveyards or in lonely valleys. Others tell of dreams where a pale woman appears, her eyes filled with tears, only for tragedy to strike soon after. These modern tales prove that the legend has not died, but continues to haunt the imagination of those who listen for voices in the night. The most haunting element of the Banshee myth is the idea that she cannot be stopped. No prayer, no charm, no lock on the door can keep her cry away. She exists beyond human power, moving with the wind and the mist, appearing only when fate demands. Her presence teaches that death is a certainty, and no matter how much we resist, we cannot change what is written. For those who believe, the Banshee's cry is not only the sound of grief, but also a reminder of love. She wails because someone is about to be lost, and in her lament is the recognition of human bonds. In this sense, she embodies the pain of those left behind, echoing their sorrow before it has even begun. Her cry is terrible, yet it is also profoundly human. Unmasking the Banshee is not about explaining her away with science or dismissing her as a superstition. It is about understanding why generations clung to her story, why her cry still chills the heart, and why she remains a powerful symbol of death and mourning. She is more than a ghost. She is the voice of grief itself, timeless and unending. The Banshee endures because she gives a voice to the silence that follows death. Her wail fills the darkness with sound, reminding us that every ending is mourned, every life leaves an echo. In the stillness of night, when the wind carries strange notes across the fields, people still wonder if it is just the air or if it is the Banshee, weeping for a soul about to depart.